Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for September 12th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast. It is Friday. We made it. This week seemed like it took 2 months, but we're here. It's Friday, and there's a lot to feel good about here on a Friday. Sometimes I like to call these Feel Gooder Fridays, but let's start with the Mets and the Phillies. The Mets may be broken. You have to love it. They did what we wanted them to do 2 weeks ago, but the Phillies completely buried the Mets. They're a hot mess right now, and it's always a good Friday when the Mets met all over themselves. But got down early, 4-0. Jesus Luzardo did not look good, but then he was dominant, absolutely dominant for the next 7 innings. Retired, I think, like 20-some straight batters, had 10 strikeouts, gave way to Johan Duran, who went 1-2-3 in the 9th, giving the Phillies the 6-4 win. And first, from a standings perspective, it's incredible. Phillies came in with a 7-game lead. The Mets are leaving town down 11. The magic number coming into this series was 13. It is now 5, so the Phillies could potentially win the division on Sunday afternoon down at Citizens Bank Park, which would be incredible, possibly out in L.A. next week. But just what a team. And, Otto Kemp hit a home run, kind of filling in, doing what he needs to do for Alec Boehm. Shout out to my boy John Foley, who's been on the Otto Kemp train. Otto Kemp becomes, if you ever follow 2008 Phils and John Foley, you'll know this one, but Otto Kemp becomes the Phillies' all-time leading home run hitter for guys named Otto. But had some fun with that, but no, good. Otto Kemp has been playing well, but Harrison Bader, we talk about Duran and the impact he's had on this club. I think the impact that Harrison Bader has had might be even greater. Yes, Duran sort of stabilizes that bullpen, but Bader's brought in the swag. He's playing lights out. Just absolutely destroyed the Mets, completely changing the whole mindset of the Phillies versus that team. I think it might be a little bit of an underrated move, and I did apologize to Dave Dombrowski yesterday, asked him for forgiveness. Some people were still like, I don't know. We got to see it. But listen, it's time to go all in on this team. It's time to hop aboard the Red October Express, and wherever we go. But it's time to stop doubting, stop doing this. This team is different. And a few weeks ago, I talked about them not having any marbles when they did the Major League 2 celebration last year. Yesterday's game was the complete opposite of that. It would have been very easy after winning the first 3 games of this series. It would have been very easy for them to just be like, whatever, we'll give it up and we'll move on to Kansas City. But no, like they battled back. Like Bryce was battling, Schwarber battling, Realmuto battling, Otto Kemp, Harrison Bader, Brandon Marsh. Like these guys, like have like that never die attitude. It's this team over the past couple of weeks remind me eerily similar of the 2008 Phillies, who started to get hot right around this time and carried that momentum into the postseason. There was never a time with that 2008 team you felt they were out of it. And even yesterday when it was 4-0, I'm like, that's all right. It's only the first inning. They'll get some runs. And even the guys on Fox said, or Jesus Luzardo interviewed with Fox, I should say, at the end of the game said that. He was like, with this offense, he knew that if he came back out and focused and kept it, 4 runs is not that big of a deal for this team. But yeah, I love it. 11-game lead over the Mets. Magic number's 5. They could potentially win the division on Sunday. Milwaukee and the Dodgers were off, so the Phils made up a half game on the Brewers. They're now 2 back for that top seed, but more importantly, they're up 4.5 on the Dodgers. And I think that right now, the Dodgers are really who we need to focus on right now, because we need, with Trey Turner, to get that first bye, or whether it's the first or second seed, to get that first round bye. 3 games coming up next week against the Dodgers. But first, it's a Kansas City weekend in Philadelphia. Birds are going out to Kansas City. The Royals are coming into Citizens Bank Park. Walker Buehler, insert your own Ferris Bueller jokes now. Bueller. All right, so Walker Buehler tonight. I'm very excited to see this start, because I think this is going to be crucial to see what he can do with the Phillies, especially since he has that postseason pedigree. Then it's Taijuan Walker and Aaron Nola, which I like the fact that the way that the rotation is setting up for that Dodger series. Not looking ahead past the Royals yet, but you're going to have Sanchez, Ranger, and Jesus in that Dodger series. But overall, good week for the Phillies. Phillies might be the winners of the week. The Mets, they're going to Met. Mets always Met, whether it's against the Phillies, after they beat the Phillies, the Mets are always going to Met. And it was fun to hear Dontrelle Willis say that as well. But that does lead us into today's question of the day. We haven't done one for a while. Phillies vibe check time. Coming down to the stretch run here. There's like 14 games, 15 games left in the season. How are we feeling about the Phils? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Call, text, get your Philly sports takes off your chest. But are you ready to board the Red October Express? I am. Listen, put me in the front. No need to be in a quiet car. Sit there with a nice little cooler of Miller Lights, and let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, yesterday's trivia question. I asked you, what is the Phillies' team record for home runs in a season, and what year did they achieve that? And that would be 2009, when they hit 224 home runs. The 2023 team came close to that, but fell just short. But 2009 team total for the Phillies was 224. That is the most home runs in team history. All right, some Eagles news. We have a game. It's a football Friday. First and foremost, the Brotherly Birds breakdown is out. Go check it out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We recap the Dallas game, move ahead, start breaking down the Chiefs-Eagles matchup, give you some fantasy picks, give you our takes on who's going to win the game. That is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But much better sound quality. I know some of you noticed on the YouTube, and before I fixed it on Spotify, my mic went out. And of all people for the mic, the guy who does this every day had the mic issues. But fixed it, did some things on the back end in editing. Sound quality is good, but go check out the Brotherly Birds breakdown wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Kyle and I break it down for you in a way only the brothers can. All right, so A.J. Brown, I saw an interview with him, and he basically blamed his struggles on Thursday night on the defense that the Cowboys was playing, or the Cowboys were playing. And I can see that. Now, I want to see what happens on Sunday to see how Kevin Patullo adjusts for that, how A.J. Brown adjusts for that. But Kyle and I don't want to get too much into it, because we talked about it on the Brotherly Birds breakdown. But we kind of noticed that too. We don't know if, I don't know. There could be something. He says he's not hurt. He says it was just a scheme. They had zone and decent coverage on him all day. So we'll see. One thing's for sure, though, they do need to get him more involved. But good to hear that he's not hurt or anything like that. And he just gave kudos to good Dallas defense. But huge matchup this weekend. Not really looking at it as the Super Bowl rematch, maybe because we won and we're having a different perspective of it. But based off of what we saw last night, the Eagles can actually start putting some distance already in the division. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders did not look good last night. So at least for the time being, your Philadelphia Eagles are alone in first place. But if you want more Eagles coverage, breaking down that Kansas City game, go check out the Brotherly Birds Breakdown wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. All right, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. And I didn't do it yet this week, but if you're a new listener, welcome. We are glad to have you. All right, a lot of good events other than the Phils and the Eagles this weekend. You got Temple, Oklahoma. I'm looking forward to this just to see. It's really a measuring stick game. So going back to something that was talked about earlier this year, or earlier this week, when we were talking about acceptable losses. Eagles losing to Kansas City, not an acceptable loss. Temple losing to Oklahoma, perfectly acceptable loss. What do I want to see out of the Owls this weekend? I want to see some fight. I want to see them not get bullied by Oklahoma. Can they do it? Yeah. I mean, are they going to beat them? I highly doubt it. But can they keep it somewhat close and somewhat respectable? Absolutely. And when you're trying to build a culture and you're trying to build a program, this is a huge game for Casey Keeler, because if he can come out there and if the Owls can show fight, if they can show that, you know what, yeah, you might be bigger, stronger, you might have a better pedigree, but we're Temple tough, that's going to go a long way in establishing his culture. So I really am looking forward to this game. I'm not under any delusion that Temple's going to beat them. I do think they have an outside shot to cover, but this ESP would be an acceptable loss for the Temple Owls. And another acceptable loss would be for the Villanova Wildcats, who travel up to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. Again, 0.0000001% chance Villanova wins this game. However, show some fight. Show that you can hang in there. Get some stuff on tape. All those good things. Acceptable. Eagles losing in Kansas City, not acceptable. And then the Union are back in action after having a week off. Tough game up in Vancouver. Vancouver is in the thick of the Western Conference MLS playoffs race. So good measuring stick game here for the Union as well. Still not acceptable for them to lose it, though. But we'll recap all of that on Monday when we rewind the weekend. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, a growing community of diehard fans turning their sports passion into something special. Whether you're looking for unique shows, want to launch your own podcast but don't have the time, or need production services, theclashingconferences.com has everything you need. Explore fan-driven content, become a member, or tap into their media services to level up your brand. That's clashingconferences.com, where fans' voices get heard. All right, September 12th. And September 12th was a day of debuts for Philly athletes. First, we're going to go all the way back to 1972. And on this day in 1972, the Phillies lost to the Mets 4-3. Don Money was replaced in the second inning at third base by a 22-year-old kid from Dayton, Ohio, who had shaky knees. And this guy was making his major league debut. He would go 1 for 3 that day with a walk. That guy would become a Hall of Famer, a 3-time MVP, a World Series MVP, a World Series champion, a 12-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glover. I'm sure you've guessed who this is by now, but on this day in 1972, Michael Jack Schmidt made his major league debut, replacing Don Money at third base. Don Money was gone after that season, and the position was Mike's for the rest of his career. Phillies did lose that game. But interesting trivia question here for you on a Friday. Everybody knows what number Mike Schmidt is, the iconic number 20. Number 20 is a big number in Philly sports history between he and B-Doc, but that's a side note. When Mike took the field that day, he was not wearing his traditional number 20. We're going to do 2 bonus questions around Mike Schmidt's numbers. First of all, who was number 20, the last player besides Mike Schmidt to wear number 20. And then what number did Mike Schmidt wear that day in 1972? Hit me up on the Discord channel, which is the first link in the description. Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Any of my social medias. But who wore number 20 for the Phillies before Mike Schmidt? And then what number did Mike Schmidt wear that day? There you go. I got a little choose your adventure, if you will. And that's specifically for Kyle, who in the Discord trivia channel, I got to step up my game. So there you go, Kyle. Who wore number 20 before Mike Schmidt? All right. Then in 1999, it was Andy Reid's debut as head coach of the Eagles. Deuce Staley ran 2 touchdowns. Luther Broughton caught a touchdown pass from our old pal and future Super Bowl winning head coach Dougie P as the Eagles went up 21-0 after the first quarter, thanks in part to those touchdowns and 2 turnovers by the Arizona Cardinals. They actually led 24-6 at halftime, and then Jake the Snake Plummer, if you remember, if your kids are out there old enough to remember Jake the Snake, he was able to always seem like he was doing fourth quarter comebacks. This was no different, but the Eagles did lead going into the fourth quarter. They had a chance to ice it. Dougie P went to go hit Brian Finneran on a pass that would have been a first down. They would have been able to run out the clock. He may have been able to outrun the Cardinals secondary for a touchdown, but instead he bobbled it, leading to an interception. Jake leads them down. Cardinals kick the field goal with 4 seconds left. Eagles lose 25-24 in Andy Reid's first game as a head coach. I don't know why certain games in my life just really stick out, and this one, because Finneran would go on to have a pretty solid NFL career with the Falcons, but man, he botched this one so bad. Like, it was probably the best pass I've ever seen. No offense, Doug, but probably the best pass I've ever seen Doug Peterson throw in my life. At least for that season, it was the best throw he ever had. And he dropped it. And not only did he drop it, the Cardinals intercepted it, but Andy Reid loses his coaching debut on this day, 25-24, down at the Vet after the Eagles jump out 21-0 in the first quarter. And if you're keeping score at home, Donovan did not play in this game. It would be a few more weeks before he would get some playing time. And then perhaps the biggest, best debut in Philly sports history happened on this day in 2004. Eagles open up with a 31-17 win against the Giants down at the Link. I remember this one extremely well. Terrell Owens made his Eagles debut, caught 8 passes for 68 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. The crowd, that's when the whole T.O., 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 T.O. And honestly, he talked about it on WIP. He loved it here. Absolutely loved it here. We all know how that worked out. More on that here in a minute. Donovan, though, to his credit, threw for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. But, man, that was an electric crowd. And finally, we felt, okay, we're going to get over the top and finally break through the NFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl. But September 12th, a day of debut for a few heavy hitters in Philly sports history. Mike Schmidt in 1972, Andy Reid in 1999, and Terrell Owens in 2004.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It's time for Fridays with AI, brought to you as always by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. They got your Red October. We're getting on the Red October Express, baby. Go get your hunt for Red October with the Fanatic shirt from Philly Goat and use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, so when AI came by this week, looking at the schedule of what we were doing, haven't done this one yet. I talk about this all the time, and if you're a loyal listener, you know I'm a huge Donovan fan. I think at this point in time, he's still the greatest quarterback in Eagles history. I think Jalen Hurts is so close to overtaking him, But as of right now, I still put Donovan number 1. But Donovan botched this one. So, you know the story. I feel Donovan's let his ego get in the way of the success of the team. Apparently, as I was talking with AI brought up a couple things I forgot. Apparently, it might have been that game against the Giants even, early that season when he made his debut. Apparently, Donovan told Terrell to shut the F up when he was saying he was open. T.O. kind of didn't make waves or anything. But then it all led to the media circuits, the setups or push-ups and sit-ups in Terrell's driveway. Andy Reid suspending him, unsuspending him, suspending him again. Him wearing and talking about wearing the Michael Irvin jersey, talking about, well, if we had Brett Favre, we'd be undefeated. Just was a whole mess. There's no denying how good Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb were when they were together. T.O. says, look, he wanted to make it work. He just wanted Donovan to basically stick up for him and share the spotlight. Donovan didn't want to share the spotlight. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But I think it's fair to say that Donovan's ego got in the way of this. So I asked AI, what if Donovan didn't let his ego get in the way? What if Donovan saw what we all saw, that Terrell Owens made not only him, but the entire Eagles offense that much better? Well, AI said, first and foremost, first thing, if ego wasn't an issue, he would have went to management and came out in support of T.O. getting a new contract, because that seems to be the critical tipping point here of the whole story. All of the other stuff that happened after that is what led to the circus. The stuff before didn't really matter until Donovan would not come out, and that kind of rubbed Terrell Owens the wrong way, especially because he came out in support of Brian Westbrook getting a new contract. So in this alternate reality, if that would have happened, AI says things could have been great. But what does it mean if T.O. and Donovan could have coexisted? They didn't have to be BFFs. They didn't have to go out for drinks after the game, have the families get together and everything. But if they could have coexisted, probably doesn't mean too much for the 2005 season. If you kind of put it in perspective, McNabb likely still would have gotten hurt because he got hurt pretty much early that season with T.O. on the team. So likely no change in 2005. 2006, again, Donovan probably still gets hurt. And I think the key piece in this kind of simulation here is Donovan's health. He always kind of, after that 2004 season, there always seemed to be some type of injury. But in 2006, Jeff Garcia, having Terrell Owens as one of his receivers, takes the Eagles to the NFC Championship game. They lose to the the Bears, the other Chicago team. But hopes are high in 2007 with a healthy Donovan and T.O. In 2007, with a healthy Donovan, Terrell Owens, they get back to the NFC Championship game, this time beating the Giants at home at Lincoln Financial Field, but would lose the Super Bowl to the Patriots. Patriots end up, by way of that, Patriots end up going undefeated in that 2007 season. Then the next year, they should have won the Super Bowl that year without T.O., but 2008, they get to the NFC Championship game, this time beat the Cardinals. There was still some debate whether that game would have been at the Link or out in Arizona based on records and everything. But either way, they get to the Super Bowl and beat the Steelers. Then they come back in 2009, beat the Saints down in the Superdome in the NFC Championship game, go back to the Super Bowl and beat the Colts. So they go back to back. It doesn't happen that soon after the first Super Bowl, but they do get back and win back-to-back Super Bowls. And then from 2010 on, they're pretty much contenders all the time, but with Donovan's health and everybody getting a little bit older, they're not necessarily a top-tier team. but they're good for a playoff run. You never know what happens when you come to the playoffs, but AI does think they would have won 2 Super Bowls together. I don't necessarily disagree. And then what does it mean for their careers? Well, Donovan likely would have had between 45 and 48,000 yards. There's some AI was like, hey, could have gone down here, could have been higher, but pretty much a good conservative estimate. 45 to 48,000, between 280 and 300 touchdowns. Shoe in for first ballot Hall of Fame. And then T.O.'s numbers already got him in the Hall of Fame, but would have had between 18 and 20,000 yards, between 170 and 200 touchdowns. But again, they both go in the Hall of Fame together, and they're forever linked. But what do you think? And I know this is one of those big, everybody talks about what could have been. What are your thoughts on if T.O. and Donovan could have coexisted? What would it have meant for the Eagles? I think minimally they win another Super Bowl. In this, AI seems to think they would have gone to 3, winning 2 of them. So they would have ended up 2-2 in Super Bowls, which we all know as Eagles fans, we certainly would have taken that. But let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line, any of my social media. And again, I like McNabb, but I just feel like a lot of this you could have solved if you just swallow your pride, put the ego to the side. And again, I say it all the time, whether or not you meant it or not, just say, pay the man, pay that man his money. Would have been that simple. But that is Fridays with AI, brought to you as always by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. Get your hunt for Red October shirts and get aboard the Red October Express, making all stops, or I guess making no stops to the world. Whatever. Let it go. You know what I meant. It's Friday. It's been a long week. Just go to Philly Goat, buy the damn shirt, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. All right, then finally today, in honor of, I almost talked about this, but I kept it to a debut sort of focus today. But in honor of the 2005 season opener where Ike Reese baited Jeremiah Trotter into getting ejected out of the game, leading to the Eagles losing that game. Today's underrated and underappreciated Philly athlete is Ike Reese himself. Ike was a 5th-round draft pick in 1998 out of Michigan State. He was a special team stud, backup linebacker, made a Pro Bowl in 2004, played with the Eagles from 98 to 2004. In his regular season, he had 6.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery for his career with the Eagles. But that 2004, he played such a big role on the special teams unit. And truthfully, special teams guys kind of fit into the same mold as offensive linemen, where you don't really hear their name. And the less you hear their name, the better it is. Because if you hear their name, that means they're not doing something right. And Ike, like I said, you would hear his name for a tackle or a big play. But Ike was just kind of one of those guys who went in there, and special teams guys have a different mindset. And Ike was one of the best. Met him a couple times. He seems like a very nice, solid guy. Currently on WIP. But Ike Reese was one of those unsung guys that didn't get a lot of the accolades, but played a key part in those 4 straight NFC Championship runs. Playing, again, special teams. And you look at the Eagles from last week, special teams played a huge role in that game. And they can win you games, they can cost you games. And Ike Reese was one of the best to do it on special teams for the Eagles. So today's underrated, underappreciated athlete, Ike Reese, in honor of the anniversary of him getting Jeremiah Trotter thrown out of that game before the game even started. Let me know your thoughts on Fridays with AI. What would have happened if T.O. and Donovan would have coexisted? All in honor of September 12th, which was a day of debuts. In 2004, 2004, Terrell Owens made his Eagles debut in a 31-17 win over the Giants. Caught 8 passes, 68 yards, 3 touchdowns. 1999, Andy Reid almost won his coaching debut with the Eagles. Unfortunately, Brian Finneran dropped perhaps the greatest pass of Doug Peterson's career, leading to an interception and a Cardinals win. And Philly legend and GOAT and greatest third baseman ever to play the game in the history of Major League Baseball, Mike Schmidt made his Phillies debut on this day in 1972. Don't forget the trivia question. First, what number did Mike Schmidt wear that day in 1972? And who wore number 20 before Mike Schmidt did? All right, it's going to be an action-packed weekend for Philly sports. You got the Union, you got Villanova, Penn State, Temple, Oklahoma. It's like college football central here. And then, of course, you got the Phillies Royals, and then the big one on Sunday, Eagles Chiefs from Arrowhead Stadium. Looking forward to that. We will recap it. Don't forget the Union, too, out in Vancouver. But we'll recap it, have it all for you on Monday when we rewind the weekend. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 12th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Don't forget to go check out the Brotherly Birds Breakdown wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. Have a great weekend. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.